You may have heard the news that cold email is dying, but I've got a few ways to help you keep it alive. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. That's not the right order, but it's nearly the end of the year. As I sit here today, it's December the 12th. I don't even know what day it is. December seems to go very quickly, as I'm sure it does for you, as the same as it does for me. Now, we're talking about the end of the year, the start of next year, and what is going to happen. I've got a few things to get through briefly, but I'm sure that you have seen the news, as I kind of will hint throughout the rest of the show, that there's been a big discussion about cold email. Is it going to die? Is it basically dead already? What is going to happen? Now, what am I alluding to? I'll kind of fill in the gaps. I'll leave you to go and do your own research, but there have been a lot of people talking about a couple of the sales engagement providers, much like ourselves, having different problems with Google and other mail providers like Yahoo and so on. Now, they're having new rules that are going to come in that they've spoken about, and there's been a very big reaction. Now, anytime there's anything that happens in software, everything gets blown way out of proportion. Now, I'm not saying that is exactly what's happened here. It's a little bit what's happened here. There's people who have gone to the end of the dramatic scale, and there's people who have just brushed it off like it's nothing. I think it's something, and I'll explain a little bit more about what exactly that means and how you can stay ahead of that, because we don't want you to get cut off with, for example, I remember as a marketer in my early days of my career, Facebook used to be great for companies. You'd post and you get lots of reach, and then one day, with no warning, chop. You got about 10% of the reach of the followers that you had. No warning. That was a horrible day for a lot of marketers, especially those like me who relied on Facebook. We don't want you to have the same with email. So there's my little intro for you. There's my stage setting. I'll go through a couple ground rules as I come to my lovely ground rules slide here. I hope you like my slide deck. I profess I didn't make it. I'm very bad at PowerPoint. So you're in listen only mode. If you do have any questions, please hit me up on LinkedIn, or you can send me an email. I'm ollie.whitfield@vanillasoft.com, or if you prefer a simple way of spelling it, ollie@autoclose.com. That's K for close, not C for close. Of course, this is being recorded, so if you're watching currently, hi, nice to see you. Thanks for joining. If you're watching in the future, hi, I hope it's warmer today where you are than it is for me today. And of course, your participation here means that you know we're being recorded. Always got to be said. So, the presenters, it's just me. Thank God. Well, actually, no, that means it's a little bit of a harder job for me today. I've got to do all the talking. Usually I like to pass the baton over to my peers and have them carry me through a conversation. But like I said, as I come to the fourth slide here, the big news I alluded to a moment ago. Now, a lot of panic, a lot of, oh my God, is email dead? What are we going to do? How does this all work? What's going to happen? Do I have to start cold calling? Lots of things. People's minds going a crazy million miles an hour. Now, I'll go a little bit further into exactly what is the news here that I'm talking about. It's kind of the elephant in the room. But essentially, Google has made a statement, and there's other providers. By the time we're talking about this, and by the time you hear this in the future, it's probably been other providers too with different numbers. So I'll try to refrain from that a little bit. But particularly, it's been Google. And they have said that there's going to be a new cap on numbers of emails sent from the same domain every day. Now, that doesn't mean it's 5 emails per day per domain, because that will be the end of everything for email related marketing, cold emails, internal comms, everything, right? That just would not work. Now, the number that I've heard and seen read in their statement is actually quite high from what I think and my interpretation and our interpretation here internally. Now, of course, we're keeping our eyes very close to this. As you'd imagine, we provide email services and that functionality. So it is, of course, in our interest to keep tabs on this. But a lot of people have really panicked about this. Now, you could see my second bullet point here. Do we panic in question marks and capital letters? I don't believe so. Of course, anytime that there is a change, it's an alert. You want to make sure you're ahead of it. But it is not a cause for dramatic concern today. Now, I believe, now please don't quote me on this, I'm kind of paraphrasing the statements that I've seen. I'm not looking directly at it, but these rules are kind of coming in end of Q1 in 2024. That timing, they may delay, well, we're not sure exactly yet, but we're hearing this kind of November 2023 was when it broke around December, and we have a few months to kind of prepare, as you were. So new Gmail rules coming in for 2024 are probably around Q1. Do we panic, and does it mean email's dead? I've said no to all of the last 2 points, and I've acknowledged the new rules are coming. But what is going to happen? So as I come to my next slide, where is email going? I ask you, what do you think? Now, a lot of people in the LinkedIn comments of these viral posts have been very sensationalist. I have refrained from commenting for sanity purposes, just to tell you the absolute truth. But fierce debate. Now, it depends where you lie on this. A lot of people who support volume-based cold calling and who are like email haters, they don't want email to be a thing. They think email is a crutch that everyone leans on. Of course, they say that email's dead and you should start calling, because that makes sense, right? And then, of course, the people who love email and who hate calling, or who hate other means, not just calling itself, but other means than email. No, it's fine. Email's going to be okay. It's only the spam tactics that are going to get hit here. Now, that's an important distinction. It's not just every email. It's the crappy stuff. It's the mass volume. There's an element of truth in both, okay? So where is email going? What's being hit, as far as our interpretation, is extreme volume, but not even the word extreme, to tell you the truth. It's volume where I'm sure that you've gotten it. I'm sure we're all painting this picture here. So kind of close your eyes with me as you're looking at your screen doing something else currently on your email. Close your eyes and think of that email that you've got in the last couple of weeks that said, hey, would you like to get users of this certain software that's nothing to do with what you sell? I've had a million of them. It's nearly always like HubSpot users, Salesforce users, Klaviyo users, Atlassian users, just anything. Pick a big software company and they're offering you an alleged customer base from someone with a Gmail, because that's normal and valid. That type of thing is probably going to die, I believe. And that I don't think anybody is upset by. That's spam. I don't trust that. It's never from a company. It's always from a random Gmail. And it's always something really weird, like Jenny161023169@gmail.com. And you think, who makes that Gmail? Like, really? Who actually would make that? So that type of thing, I think, is going to be the first thing in the firing line. It's not per se you as a sales rep, or your team members as a sales leader, or my teammates as a marketer. It's not going to be those people, as far as we can tell and we're looking at the moment. But of course, we keep our eyes on that. So that stuff, high volume, very low accuracy, list segmentation, non-existent. Yeah, for sure. And if you do that, you should have been worried long before this. What's going to happen now is we think that this is going to kind of scare people a little bit. We think that this is going to hit a little mental reset, and it's going to help people say, I'm fairly on the kind of mass side of things, as opposed to I'm more on the scattergun than the snipe, as you were, to use a sort of shooting analogy there. I'm not particularly targeted. I'm kind of all over, and I see what lands. If that's you, I have a few things that might help you here. And if this is not you at all, and you're agreeing exactly with my points here, then you're probably in a good spot to begin with, and you should kind of lean more into that, I think. So a long-winded way of saying what is coming. I think longer emails. Now, we've talked about this quite a lot internally. Much of the meta, if you use that word, the big tactic at the moment, the most talked about thing, the prevalent advice is brevity. Short emails, 75 words, not more than one scroll on a phone. All of those types of things which help people read an email very quickly, not get deleted quickly, is probably the main thing. It's not even about reading it. It's about not getting deleted. Those things, they have a big place in the emails that you have going forward, but adjust it, I think. Short emails, if adopted by every single person who sends emails, can just make everything look the same. Now, of course, you'd say the same if it was all longer emails. They all look like that. But I think in longer emails, you obviously have more opportunity to say, well, obviously more. But you've got a much better chance of embellishing a little, if I can get my words out, embellishing and adding little things all over the place. Whereas in a couple lines, a lot of it is kind of, you've already got the formula. You don't have a lot of rooms to actually edit anything, if you know what I mean. Let's say I've got 50 words. It's very easy to literally lose 40 of them before I've even said anything apart from the pitch and asking for time, if I'm going to ask time in my call to action. So I've only got a few words to play with. Then if you change that, completely on its head, I've got a lot more place where I can embellish little, hey, I also use this tool too that I know you use. And speaking of that, insert next line, lots of little things like that, which just say, this is real, it's a person, it's researched, therefore higher chance of relevancy. Those sorts of things I think are going to be very, very, very important. High degrees of personalization links into the point above, what I kind of just mentioned. Now, the main point about the emails that are going to go away, I think, they go into spam because they're sending a million of them from a crappy domain or a Gmail. It's not really containing anything other than, would you like to buy free sample and words that trigger spam? How else do you kind of get labeled in the same bucket? You don't personalize, because what can spam not do? Personalize. So if you can, people have been talking about this for years now, if you can show that it's even remotely relevant, it doesn't mean personalize one-to-one, you to me, me to you. It means role, company, industry, any of those above, or if you can do that, all three. Probably the role itself is the lowest hanging fruit you can do. You don't even need to do the person itself. Now think about that. So high degrees of personalization doesn't mean we work with pharma companies as the words in your email and you're sending it to non-pharma companies. Why are you doing that? That's very easy to just change the list that you've got and then plug it in. Use the different wording. If you're talking to sales tech software companies like VanillaSoft, we are a sales engagement platform, so that would put us in sales tech. Saying software companies is extremely broad. Sales tech is much more narrow. Now, it is about 5, 6, 7,000 companies, still quite a lot, but it's a much, much narrower lens. So anything you could do like that to say relevancy, not irrelevant, don't delete, that's a good thing. Now, as I go on, much higher list segmentation. So again, there's an infinite number of doing this. I could go on for a long time. I think I'm going to put a pin in that. I'm going to save it for one of my later on slides. So longer emails. Hold on. That is not what everyone is telling me to do. I'm not sure I want to do that. That means I have to type more, and no, I don't want to do that. Well, hang on a second. So everybody talks about brevity. Everybody talks about emails that are kind of this big, 50 words, 75 words, something like that, or as fewer sentences as you can get. Now, of course, there's a lot of logic that supports that. But in the face of a change, sometimes the meta tactic changes. And it's the people who can adapt the best and experiment and try things and use their intuition as they go that will be able to work this out and have the best success. So longer emails mean if you need to send less emails, that's kind of less email fatigue, isn't it? That's a good thing. And that means less of your emails will just get mass deleted immediately just because they are an email, relative or not to you, what you said, the company you're at, the problem you're solving, any of that. So that means less email fatigue is a higher attention span, which means hopefully they're going to be able to read, engage, and maybe even reply to an email. Now, all of that is kind of theory. We're not sure at this point. We're talking today in December. The rules don't quite yet change. And we have the kind of loose date of end of Q1, something like that, where these big sweeping changes that are going to turn email upside down may come into effect. So what can you do today to prepare? It's a little bit of a kind of conceptual thing in your mind. Can I write some longer emails that don't look too fluffy? Now, that's the big thing I think you're going to have a balancing act to deal with here. It's going to be, how long does longer mean? Now, is this 7 phone scrolls wrong? If you imagine your phone and you flipped 7 times to scroll, yeah, probably quite a bit too long. But then again, is 1 phone screen enough? I would say that is pretty short. And does even another phone screen of email content count? It's probably you need a little bit more than that. So actually, my cat has come to say hello because she is an email expert too. I would say if you're going to look at between 2 to 3 phone scroll lengths, depending on what phone you have. If you have like a Nokia or something, probably not that. But a little bit longer gives you a lot more opportunities. So, for instance, I'll refer to a couple of the frameworks that I often use. ACCA, which is Awareness, Comprehension, Conviction, Action. Or you might have the Josh Braun, not triple, quadruple T. It's the trigger event, the third-party validation, the teach them and the tell them. You might be able to embellish maybe a paragraph per point instead of a sentence per point. All of a sudden, you're starting to think, how do I use the third-party validation in a bit more detail? How can I add some meat and some flavor onto that one bone there of that email? So instead of, for example, now what would I say in my teach me and tell me part of the email? I would usually say something like, sales tech companies like Gong and LeadIQ have used us to achieve metric or result. If I was sending that to myself, because I know people at Gong and I know people at LeadIQ, could I have said a competitive company directly to us? Maybe. Does that company actually work with those competitors is the main question for that. But I know people at Gong. I know people at LeadIQ. I could ask them, hey, company emailed me. They said this thing. Is that true? Are they good? What's pricing like? I can self-check that out. And I know that the sales tech companies, similar industry, I can translate the tactic across, same business model, that type of thing. Like I said earlier, if it worked for Zoom or if it worked for HP and Oracle, doesn't translate. Zoom are like a multi-billion company. HP and Oracle, they're mega enterprise tech companies. I don't even know what Oracle does. So how do I know if that can translate to what I do and what we do? So you kind of get the picture. You can add a little bit further context in my what are they doing for Gong and LeadIQ? You can add to something like, we also help their webinars get double the retention and 3 times the registrations using a new tactic. All of a sudden, you've got a bit better of an idea of what you're going to ask your friends at Gong and LeadIQ about. Okay. So there we go. That's a part of that. That's the longer emails. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know. Send me an email. Send me a long email if you agree. Send me a short email if you don't. As I come on to my next point. Deeper personalization. Interesting. Now, I see that you went to Cornwallis Academy and got straight A's and had an impressive 7-year tenure is a bit of a parody example of some personalization. That's not particularly personal. That's just scraping the school that I went to and adding some nothing. Now, my tenure, I was 12 to a certain age where I had to stay. That's not tenure. A lot of people say, hi, I saw that you went to Harvard, Yale, MIT, whatever other college that you went to. That doesn't really mean personalization. That's just, I saw a thing and put it in email, done. Doesn't count. Deeper personalization is much more relevant. Stats, trigger events, things that you have found which relate to the person's here and now and job and goals. All of the above. The school they went to does not. It's their past and nothing to do with what they do in their work, potentially at least anyways. So for instance, if I'm selling to me, of course it's easier to talk about yourself, but me, what have I got to do in the next few weeks and months and years? I've got to increase the number of demos that we here at VanillaSoft and Order Close book. That's a revenue metric. You can work out the numbers as you go back from that. Maybe some other KPIs, some leading indicators of success for that would be the website traffic. Does that concern me? We have other team members for that, but it might be of my periphery, you could say. Other content that we do, which relates back to the demand gen, the lead gen, which plays into that demo number. That's another thing. So the kind of pitch I did a moment ago about the could be 3x webinar signups or double the retention. Those things, that might be of note around the edges. But of course, those are just the sort of pain points. But of course, you've got to be accurate with that. A lot of emails are just, hey, do you want to double revenue? And the people who write that, challenge yourself to think, would I ever say no to that? And why would I say no to that if I do? It's just because it's so obvious that if I could already double revenue, wouldn't I have already done it? Potentially. So there's that. But as far as your target, I've really lost my words here. The personalization's got me tripped up. But if you know what those KPIs, those goals, those things that I was talking about a moment ago, those book demos, webinar attendance, lead gen, those things, how else can you find things that back up what you're saying to make it very obvious this is not another one of those crappy spam emails that we hope are going away? Now, of course, you're going to be able to find things like people are hiring, new hires, they've got a new boss, or those things. You can find that on Sales Navigator, quite often on LinkedIn, quite often the website if it's big enough, if you're tracking those accounts. But sometimes it's just something like a LinkedIn personal post. Now, I often post that I've been looking into webinar frameworks that I think will help us have better attention, generate more buzz in the market, have more people know about what we're doing, but also generate some really, really good content that we can use in lots of other ways. So that supports our whole effort, not just the We got webinar means we got demo means we got a lead. So something like that, you might notice, oh, he posted that framework. I actually disagree. Let me kind of politely and delicately pose my thoughts in a note or an email or a voice note. Maybe even a voice note is better because I can tell tone of your voice, but you can follow up with an email. That type of thing is much deeper personalization. Now, of course, that's very theoretical. You might be thinking, well, my buyers don't really do LinkedIn that much. They certainly don't post what they're thinking about. They kind of just post like the company blog or things like that. They're not really posting their own thoughts. It's very curated if they even do post at all, if they even are active at all, which is a whole other thing in some markets. Now, this is when you've got to only go into the company. From this, I think your best bet is Sales Navigator. You've got to be able to find the marketing team count increase in the last 3 months is 62%, or those kind of very nuanced niche things. You're going to go, the finance team has grown 23% this year. Why is that? Or the new press release about the acquisition that they've got and the CFO is quoted if you're looking for the CFO. You've got to be able to find those things. And if you can't, sometimes your best bet is waiting and finding other people to email and talk to. And then when something happens with your overall TAM of accounts that you are going to have, not the company you, I like to think that sales reps have their own TAM, and then they have the people they're going after, and then they have the people they're talking to, if you know what I mean. So I kind of went through a whole bunch of things there, but I would like to show you a bit of a before and after with an idea of these longer emails and the deeper personalization. So as I show you a before, this is a few things at once here. I'll hope that we've blurred out some of the words here that indicate who this is, but scaling video production is their subject line, and it's to me. So it says, Ollie, curious to learn how you're prioritizing video content in the demand gen plans at VanillaSoft. If you're okay with it, I can share some of the strategies other teams are utilizing with our AI video copilot. Sound interesting? ? P.S. Let me know if I'm barking up the wrong tree. Other there. Thanks. I think they got a bit confused at the end, but doesn't matter. Not too much wrong with this. I'll be honest. There's nothing to tear down here. The only thing you could probably improve is the stitching together of the first line to the second. It's they're making a small jump compared to, I mean, it's fairly obvious. Video content in demand gen. Okay, cool. Why do I need it to be AI co-piloted and so on? That's the only small ? The only small jump. But beyond that, it's just a brief email. There's nothing too much personalized. They just know what my job is, or relatively speaking, they've targeted a person who is in marketing and demand gen and is at the right company. So fairly straightforward email. That's the before. This is a shorter email. This is not too much going on here. Could be sent to a very, very big number of people. Now, as I come to my next one. Now, I'll call him out. Hopefully, we've blanked out all of the other information here. But Jordan on our team, Jordan Hyatt, if I've said his name correctly. Sorry, buddy, if I did not. He is a bit of an email goat. That's our kind of joke that we say to each other. So he's got his subject line here, which I'm not sure I get at the moment. I'll come back. But he's written a longer email. Now, this part is because of the audience that he's going after. He's in the fundraising vertical that we have, the higher education market. So this suits that tone a bit more, suits that market a little bit more than it might do maybe a VP of sales at a software company, per se. So as a former higher education fundraiser turned salesperson, talking about his career path, I see a surprisingly large amount of similarities between the two in my day-to-day work. I apply fundraising strategies to my sales role regularly, and if I were to ever go back to being a fundraiser, I would absolutely be leveraging tactics I have learned from my stint in sales. Now, new paragraph, a sales engagement tactic that I believe should be picked up immediately, in caps, in the fundraising space is the utilization of cadences. He's put a little asterisk, I guess you call that, I don't know what it's called. A thoughtfully curated series of strategic multi-channel touchpoints, allowing you to break through the noise and reach people where they are. New line, you should check out this blog post, and he's linked to sales engagement tactics for fundraisers. It provides a wealth of transferable insights, strategies, and concepts that you may have not previously seen within the fundraising space. I'm hoping to connect with you and share experiences about the digital engagement practices that your team has in place this year, and to fill you in a bit about how our partner institutions at the beginning of the wave. He says the company name there, so I'm not going to drop that one in. How does next week look for you? So what's he done here? There's a lot going on, and he's got 2 asks, which usually I would say, no, let's not do that. We want to do one thing at a time. I think what he's really doing, actually, though, it's not 2. He's trying to give you some credibility. He's trying to show some of that, don't delete, this is actually for you, for a reason type of thing. So I know, and you guys can't see, so I'm sorry I can't give away exactly who it is. There's a whole bunch of reasons we can't do that. But the person that he sent this to has a very, very similar background to him, and that's why he's lent so much into that. And you can see throughout that as a former higher education person, now now salesperson, he's mentioned that a few times. He's talking about how he would apply certain things from one to the other. He's talking about if he'd ever go back, what he would take with him from sales. And then he's talked about that one thing that he would take if he was going to go back, and talked a bit more about it. So that's a good little way of adding some more flavor and meat on the bone, like I was talking about earlier. He's stitched that together very nicely. Now, his ask at the end is, I am hoping to connect with you, but hopefully I've shared some value here. Here's a link to the piece that I was talking about, which might be new to you. You might not have seen this before. Others aren't using this. Really good way of saying, this is new. Maybe you don't know. Click on it, have a little look if you want, but I'm here to talk to you about it as well. So he doesn't specifically ask, could you go and read the blog, and I will let you know if there's any need to talk about it afterwards. He said, here's the thing, check it out if you want, don't if you want. This is what I'm here to talk to you about. So that's a nice little example, I think, of a longer email done without just adding lots of stuff for the sake of it. Now, my last point, the list segmentation. Quite a lot of anagrams here. I am sorry. I'm a marketer. It's part of my DNA. Let's plan this out. So, like I was saying before, you can have the company, you can have the industry, you can have the person. Those are 3, count them 3, segmentations you can have. Now, like I said before as well, you have your TAM, you have the people you're talking to, you have the people who reply, and then the people who you sell to. Your TAM might be built of 1,000 accounts. Let's just pick any number. But 500 at a time may not have any trigger events going on at any given point, which are of use to you in starting that conversation. You really want to start with something, otherwise you're kind of starting off on the weakest possible footing you have, and then you've got the less chance of progressing the conversation that you could have. So for instance, let's now see next week, another batch of my target accounts, another 100 have something newsworthy happen. And what are those things? Maybe we categorize them, maybe we work out some different ways that we create automated lists. That's very doable using lots of different tools and ways of thinking. But let's pick up on that. So ICPs in location could be, let's just say CEOs in New York City. 2 things. There's going to be a lot. But for very, very simple ease of use, we're using that. Now, let's say this week there is 1 million of them. I have no idea how many the number is. Next week, there might be 950,000. Now, that could mean that 100,000 left or aren't anymore, and 50,000 joined, or whatever it is. But you've just found, if my maths add up there, 50,000 new CEOs in New York City, ICP fit. Great. Let's do that. Let's talk to them every week, every month, every however long that you have an appropriate level of these events happening. You can keep rejigging this query, and then you've got more people to put into your cadences. That's what you want. Recent trigger event and ICP fit could be something like the funding round that happens every month. You could have a first of the month check of new funding round on TechCrunch, Coinbase, all of those things. You might have other tools. Could be new offices, could be new leadership hire, could be funding rounds, mergers, acquisitions, 100 million things. Could be even really, really basic stuff like they've bought a new company car, because that's the first thing that you track, which is a sale signal. So whatever yours is, plus ICP fit, run it every week, run it every however long. That's a new list, the new people in it, put them through. There you go. Now, I don't need to go through each and every single one of these. You kind of get the picture. But that's one thing that reps never do. It's just, okay, I need this role and this place and this size of company. What's out there? And then I just get everything, put it in a little bucket, and I just stuff it in, dump it into my my tool, whatever I'm using, and I just go through those calls. I go through those emails, see what happens. And then, oh crap, what do I do after? Are there any more? Don't know, haven't thought about it. Or what other market can I get? Is there someone in a different location that's slightly less ideal, but I've already used the big batch of what I've got? That's something that reps do all the time. So I think that's going to be very important, particularly if you're trying to be a little bit more, if you're going deeper and wider. Nope, that's the wrong wording. There you go. You can see how much this is fresh in my mind and I'm thinking it through. If you're trying to go very specific, you're going to add more detail to the information that you're sending to those specific people. And then in that case, you're obviously going to reach less people quicker. So you've got more time to put into each one, and then you can work through gradually. So there we go. That's list segmentation. Fairly quick whistle stop tour. Now, before we end, I'm just going to go back and summarize the last thing here. What did we learn? Hopefully a few things. I'd like to think that I've opened your eyes a little bit to not everything is going away. The world is not ending. Email will not be ending. And you can still use it very, very, very effectively. Just maybe a couple of tweaks you might need. Email is not dead. And putting your best foot forward means even more now. And that means the list segmentation, the deeper personalization, showing it off in balanced ways across the length of your email, picking the ways in which you want to say, not a dumb email, not spam, I'm a real person, researched you, relevant, all of those things in places throughout your email and throughout your emails, not just the singular one in your follow-ups, I should say, is very important. And the list segmentation is probably the biggest advantage that you can have so far if you can build it into your process. So that's it, everybody. I'm done talking. You can go back to the rest of your day and hopefully send some really, really good, targeted, longer, segmented emails. Now, of course, there's going to be a lot of change with this as we go. A lot of things are going to come up in the next few months where maybe the email is dead, dreaded words come back up again. I don't believe that is going to happen probably ever. I think it's too much of a product for a lot of companies that are so big that why would they kill email? So that's probably never going to happen in my opinion, at least for now. But I do think that a lot of people are going to react to these changes as they come. And they might take it badly and some might take it very well. There's going to be a lot of difference. You're going to have to do your own research and think about it. If you read LinkedIn comments to decide what you're going to do, not a good way to conduct your business, I think. So we'll keep our eyes on this. We'll do follow-ups to this session as the news comes and as we learn more. But of course, if you have any feedback, any questions in the meantime, please do reach out to me and our team here at VanillaSoft. Of course, the sales team, they send sales emails and they know what the platform is doing. So they're a great resource. Me, like I said, I'm ollie.whitfield@vanillassoft.com. If you're feeling lazy, ollie@autoclose.com. That's K for close, not C. And of course, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm probably the only Ollie Whitfield you'll find somewhere near the top of your feed when you do the search. So hit me up there if you'd like to. But that's it. So I'll leave you with that. Thank you very much for listening. If you made it this far, you're the best. You have a better attention span than I do. And of course, if you're watching this on a recording, then please feel free to share with whoever you'd like. Hopefully what I said is now not irrelevant because of the length of time you've had between now and where you are. But of course, that's it. So thanks very much, folks, and we'll see you in the next one.